o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance. Just a reminder, the meeting is being recorded. Okay, I would suggest, if we're going to go down that particular road, is that it's impossible for somebody to do that job if they're being pulled in 5 different directions all the time, okay? So I would just ask other members of the board to be cognizant of the fact that you can't be doing 5 different things at all times to get this job done. So try to be sensitive to the fact that we just have a lot of work, a lot of learning to do, and he has to get certified for the requirements. So he's got a lot of work on
FinCom was clear, he couldn't spend money for salaries, but he did, you know, himself, employee, whatever, you know, in the tax department. Bottom line is, at the end of the day, what he did, he can't do, but he did it without FinCom's approval. Granted, the board made a motion. As a matter of fact, for the record, I made a motion pending FinCom approval, because I knew under Mass General Law, we don't have that authority, okay? But again, it goes back to FinCom. FinCom is clear where they stand on this. I personally think it sets a bad precedence for all our employees moving forward by us approving these funds out of this account, okay? I think this board, we've had multiple meetings with the building department here at this board, okay? I have preliminary minutes from FinCom meeting. I've got reports from the last FinCom meeting. And to this date, I still don't know what all the hours are for. I've contacted other towns that, you know, that are larger than ours that don't have the hours of an assistant that's being requested here. Just because she's, you know, that position is overseeing now the electrical department, which the electrical department was online before we went online with Permit Pro. But I don't know exactly, and it still hasn't been shared with the board. None of us know what those hours are being used, what are being done in those hours. Even at FinCom's meeting, at a 402 permits for the year 2024, if I take 28 hours a week, times by 52, divide it all into that permit, she's spending about 2 hours a permit. It doesn't make sense. You know, going online should be reducing hours, not increasing hours. Okay, that's the benefit. I mean, I'm working with another town now that's going online for that same reason, right? More towns are going online and doing online processing. I don't understand. I don't understand how we can sit here and spend taxpayer dollars out of an account, which, by the way, I asked in December to do 10,000 out of the Thames Grand River on the ARPA funds for the Historic Commission, and was told, no, we can't do that because, you know, I don't think we take funds to do something like that. But now you're saying that we take funds out of here, taxpayer dollars, to increase someone's salary. That's been the department head. The department, the procedures are in play, right? They know what they need to do. You want to reserve fund transfer, just like FinCom said, and it's like on our piece of paper in October. Did a reserve fund transfer go to FinCom? No. Okay. But meanwhile, this employee is getting paid without the authorization. That's the legal part that I'm concerned with. Then all the way into December, we vote this on, and it isn't until January they get the reserve fund transfer. Why? Because our accountant filled it out. Okay, that's the problem, right? Meanwhile, now we're short. You're absolutely right. Now come what, March 19th, there won't be any funds left in that payroll account for the clerk. And to ask us to take funds out of these accounts to pay for salary, I think is just an injustice. And we shouldn't be doing it. Unless I have a full breakdown. I think this board deserves exactly what is happening in that job description, because I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And I've said that from the beginning. When I original motion back in, was it October, when I only wanted 4 hours, because that's what I can see. I've sat with that department. I've been involved in Permit Pro. Right now, I see everything that's going on in Permit Pro. Okay, I see all the departments are communicating now. Even as of today, the Board of Assessors and the Building Department are now communicating. So we're all those, everything is worked out. I just don't see it, you know.
So can I just have to ask you a question? So when we approved the additional $3, it was because, it was to my understanding, we were doing so, not because of Permit Pro in any point, but it was because she wasn't currently working for Mr. Manson.
Correct. Correct. So originally when I was first tasked to work on this, one of the conversations I had with the assistant was I asked roughly what are the amount of hours you would need added to your position if you were overseeing the electrical department. Because there's been confusion there from the beginning. Electrical's been online, but it didn't report to, like, she's not doing the work that time, I was told 3 to 4 hours a week, not a day, a week. And that's the reason why I made a motion of 4 hours. Original motion I did, because that's what I'm comfortable with. But then after my, that conversation, the original conversation I had, weeks had gone by, and, or a month or so had gone by, and then next thing I know, because she was holding 2 positions, so she's leaving the Board of Assessors office, which is 12 hours, and next thing I know is that now we're going to be 12 hours into the building department, which is exactly what FinCom was saying last week. So, again, I think not knowing all the hours, I understand she sees emails and she manages those emails, but like exactly what is it? At the same time, from what I read in FinCom and some of the comments that people called me with from that meeting, the same thing has been happening in these meetings. Bottom line is, we're printing everything off. We are not doing that anymore. We cannot do that anymore. Moving forward, we have to, again, we should be reducing the amount of paperwork, not increasing the amount of paperwork. Now, talking with Scott Mansfield from the original meeting that, I had with Andrea, Teresa, and Scott Mansfield, and Permit Pro, there's been comments made about lack of training. Wrong. There's been multiple training. I have offered to work with everybody on Permit Pro from the day I got involved. 2.5 years I've been dealing with this. Okay? I've done everything in my power to get everybody on board. As of today, all the department heads are pleased with Permit Pro and what's going on, except one, the building department. Okay? That problem, when I hear that no one's been trained, okay? And again, the FinCom, I say FinCom, at the last meeting when the chairman was here, had shared that, the board of that position, the assistant, got an additional few hours when we went online with her. Andrea and Deb, our town clerk, when Deb was sitting in as an assistant for our board, the two of them took this it's called super, it's not, I keep saying server, but it's not client, user, super user, from Permit Pro. She has the training. We already paid her for that training. And here we are. Now, am I going to sit here and go through 4 years, 5 years worth of minutes to dig all this up? We can, okay? But when I talk to someone that took the training with her, okay, I hear all these things that we're not doing. And I'm telling you right now, if you read our minutes and you read the emails that I have sent, encouraging meetings with Permit Pro, the trainings with Permit Pro, and I get denied from the building department from day one. I'm sorry, that's where we're at, okay? Again, to go this route, we're going around the process that's in place. That's how I feel, that we shouldn't be spending this money, okay? And we're in a position now, like, okay, we've already talked, I know if Andrea needs hours, here's the solution. It's pretty simple, okay? The position for the assessors is still open. She can go ahead and, talk to Cindy. She can get that position back. She can get her 12 hours there. I have no problem approving 3 hours more for the building department. So in that position, if we can squeak that out, talk to FinCom, is there a way to do that? Or if we need to take it out of this fund, which I don't want to, but if you're saying that, I figured an hour a day is what I originally thought, but the problem is if we go to 20 hours in that position now becomes a benefit position. So then FinCom's concerned about that, because it's not just what it is. We can't just do it for the employee, we have to do it for the position. That's where I'm getting.
All right, let me make a couple comments here. First of all, there is no mistaking to anybody who's ever seen a selectman meeting that you guys have very unhappy with the building department, okay? However, the time to have a lot of these issues was prior to authorizing her to get these extra hours. There was plenty of time to discuss it. We sat here and I gave everybody an opportunity to talk about this, okay? Now, in the 11th hour, what is the message that you are sending to the employees of this town? That they can't rely on anything this board says, because just like that, we can change our minds and say, oh, well, we thought it was a good idea. I realize you've made arrangements to change your work and where you work and how often you work. I find, as I sat here listening to all of this, it sounds to me like you're questioning their integrity, because you're saying, I'm not convinced that they're that, you know, to me, that's telling people, you know, we question what you're doing and, you know, are you legitimately getting paid for your time? And that is a bad precedent to set. And I'm telling you right now, personally, I think that she needs to get paid for this. It's less than 5 months until the town meeting, so it's not a ton of time to do this. And when the town floor votes on how much money is going in, the argument about doing it for the electrical and the building and so forth is going to be right on the table there. But I would say this, if you want to crash the morale of everybody who works for this town, go ahead and say, yeah, we're going to pay, we're going to do this, we're going to get you what you need, because this is important. And then turn around and say, you know what, yeah, I've changed my mind, I'm not going to do that. That's very unprofessional, and I think it's also, I also find it insulting.
Point of order. Mr. Chair, you're not even supposed to be speaking.
Yes,
Let's just
stop
step
talking
down.
to me about
Robert's rules, you're not even supposed to be
You're
speaking.
wrong.
No,
You're absolutely wrong. No, you're absolutely wrong. Let me ask you this, can I make a motion on this, or can the chair not make a motion?
Of course you can make a motion.
Really? You need to go back and read the others rules at all. You have not read it well enough, I promise you that.
So if I can, please.
All right, you know what?
You made a couple comments, let me clarify a couple of things. For the record, okay, this has nothing to do with the building department, how I feel about how it's being run. Absolutely nothing whatsoever.
Doesn't
Number
sound that
one.
way.
And I'm basing it on where we are today. We're asking for more money. And I agree, this board has approved those hours, pending FinCom's approval. Okay? And again, the board decided to remove those comments from my motion. That's fine. Okay, if that's what we ended up doing. And here we are in the FinCom's approval. As far as the employees go, I will share you with this. Right now, the town employees, if this goes through, they are not going to be happy. They will not be happy. As a matter of fact, I've been told that they appreciate the fact that we are looking at this because it sets the wrong message. We're going against, you know, FinCom's like, it doesn't meet this requirement. Department heads are required. I can name right now. We've had the Board of Assessors go to the FinCom for, you know, for an executive, or excuse me, for a reserve fund transfer. We've had our offices gone multiple times. Already, I mean, even the veterans pay, then that reserve transfer fund and the insurance, right, liability insurance. Okay, I make phone calls to FinCom. Asked if I needed to be there as a board member. You know, do you need a board member? The answer is no. Why? Because that the requirements of reserve fund transfer. So again, other departments, since I've been on the board, it's only been 2.5 years, okay? I figured it out, how the process works. If the department head should know this stuff. This, you know, and I appreciate where our employees help each other. I encourage that. But my conversation with Marie is that when we do the work for the department heads that they should be doing themselves, then this is what happens. We have policies and procedures in place, and our employees are watching what we're doing. And that's what I'm saying. This falls back on the department head and how it's been handled at this point. Okay? So again, I believe my vote on this is going to be no. I think it's clear. It has nothing to do with Tariq. It has nothing to do with Andrew. It has to do with the position. And I will see when I see the building department's budget, and if I see, just for the record, we're all talking hours here. And what I find fascinating, we're not talking about money. So when I say that, you understand that this position, if we give this $8,000, roughly $7,942.53, and then come June at annual town meeting, this position is a $30,000 a year position. That's more than what our inspector gets. I can't understand how we can do this. And I will say at town meeting, I will stand up in front of the town and show them that I do not support this. And I believe FinCom will too. Because it's just way too many hours for the amount of work. Just do the data we have and just crunch some numbers and you'll see. You know? And if we have to, I mean, if we gotta sit, there was a suggestion that if someone wants to sit with her for a week to see all the work that's done, maybe that's what we do. Each board member takes a day, and in the next 30 days, we sit and see what she does, but she doesn't know what day we're gonna be there. It's all gonna be a surprise, okay? And we'll sit there and watch. I don't think we should have to do that.
But she's currently doing more work than she was
But what
prior
is
to
it?
October.
That's right. And that's what I'm saying. What is she doing? That's why the original motion was for 4 hours.
So from the, just for a little bit of data, since October, she has done, I believe there's been 66 electrical connections that have come through. 6 have been on Commercial Pro, and the other 60 she had to put in.
Right.
And she had put in another 120 from the previous year.
Actually, the answer to that is, well, no, because we went online in October. So all the permits that are previously going online are sitting in a stack in our assessor's office that now supposedly she's going to end up putting it into online. So now, you are right, and that's what I said at the last meeting. And I said it earlier with the data that was, FinCom that was shared, that the amount, you should be doing less work, not more work.
But she's doing more work because she took on the electrical. I'm just trying to.
No, I understand that. I agree with you. So the question is, that's why in my original meetings and stuff with Andrea and Teresa and Scott was that, what is that work? Well, she's overseeing his emails and stuff. That's okay.
But she's doing the money transfers and all that as well, right?
It's all online with electrical. So everything's online with the electrical. They should be doing it all online. So now, if the permits coming in there's a chunk of them that still are not being processed online. Why? Because if you go to the website, you'll see why. Okay, the website doesn't promote online permitting. Okay, as people come in, we should be encouraging them to process the permits online. It goes back to what FinCom said. It's what I've been saying, that there should be a processing fee. I've spent today, again, on 7 different town websites. Okay? Again, looking on how they're handling the online permitting stuff. 6 of those sites will not accept hard copies.
I thought it was told to this board that that's illegal, that we have to be.
Well, that's what we've been told, but as I'm finding out, that's different.
Oh.
Okay?
That's absolutely 100% true.
I can tell you today on the 2 websites that are on state websites, you can get any permit on state website and it's online only. Okay? And again, we can talk about, I'm not saying we don't take hard copies. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when someone comes in, we should be encouraging people to go online.
Right.
It's real simple. We have a processing fee. Okay? That process, if that's what we said, it's a processing fee. That's fair enough, whatever that number is, $25, $50, whatever it is. I guarantee more people will do permits online. That will then decrease the amount of hours that she needs to do. We shouldn't have to be printing everything off. We seem to be still doing a ton of printing.
All right, here's what I'm gonna do. You know what? We've discussed this at 3 or 4 different meetings. We've discussed the hours at 3 or 4 meetings. We've discussed the pay at 3 or 4 meetings. I think everybody knows where we stand at this point. Right now, I'm gonna call for a motion to either approve paying this on one of the other 2, and I'm personally inclined to say that this is staying current grant money. The board can decide, you're gonna pay it or you're not gonna pay it, but we can sit here all night and do this. We've done it 6 or 7 times already.
Can I just have confirmation that we are within our rights to use this?
According to Marie, the accountant, told him that it's discretionary money for us to spend.
Now, should we let Bill speak for 5 minutes? He is our building official. I know we've let him speak before.
Yeah,
But maybe he can, if he wants to speak. If he wants to speak.
You will be the last person to speak on this. You sat here quietly while everybody else had their say, so this is your mission.
Entering in data is just the start of the permit process. We have to retain records because I don't trust that system to be readily available at all times. Our computer system has crashed at times, and it's been hacked. So we would need those files, we want to be able to go to them and get them. And I believe that's part of the requirements. As far as this permit pro thing goes, this board decided to institute it back into
issues on this,
Yeah.
but we did not put